junior year in high school, I took a college level world history course. It's funny because at first I actually wasn't going to take the class until one of my friends was like, hey, you should come on and sign up for the class with me. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll sign up if you're going. Turns out it ended up being one of my favorite classes ever because I love world history, right? Or just any history in general. It's just that data science part of me that loves analyzing how empires rose or fell or split apart, came together. Now, I know that sounds probably a little cringeworthy, like, oh yes, the computer geek was also a history geek. I'm not gonna lie, I was just a little geeky in high school.
Weenie Hot Juniors!
But I think I fixed it all by the time senior year rolled around.
X gon' give it to you.
Senior year being when I made this program. And this was just one of my favorite classes, and I enjoyed it all the way up until modern history. And that's where it kind of stops, because empires aren't being created every single day. You kind of hit the limit at where we've gotten at this point in time, and you kind of go past it one day at a time, and that's a bit too slow for me. So I got the inspiration to create this program that would randomly generate these histories of empires rising and falling and splitting apart and coming together within a randomly generated geography. I had first created a random continent generator, I think it was earlier junior year in high school. So I used the base of that to create my first ever civilization simulator, which is what I call these series of programs. Now, I started out creating a very simple, rudimentary civilization simulator in Java. This was CivSim 1. It was alright, but it ended up really just being, all these resources spread throughout the map. The empires will compete for the resources, and then once all the resources are gone, they'll kind of just die out. I'll show you that in a later video because I don't think it's as interesting as version number 2, which is what I'm going to be showing you all today. Version number 2, I think, is probably my most favorite take that I've done on this concept of civilization simulators. I've actually done 4 versions of this CivSim idea, and I think 2 and 4 are probably my favorite. 1 was very rudimentary, as I already said. 3 was kind of overcomplicated, and it was focused too much on the machine learning aspect. With CivSim 2, it wasn't quite a neural network. It wasn't quite the AI you'd expect, but I think it would be more akin to an octopus brain, where it's the brain spread out throughout the entire body. It's really weird. It's more like a sensory network than a neural network, but I think it actually worked really well for what I wanted it to do, even though it's not a neural network hardcore machine learning algorithm. Now, I'm gonna go over to the laptop view just to show you guys how the program runs, how it works. I'm gonna skim through the code, and I'm gonna show all of you how you could download it through my GitHub. I'm gonna explain the rules of the simulation just so that way you get a better idea of how this program and how my algorithms run to create a completely randomly generated history. So what you see here is all these different hexagons, right? This is the world view. You double click, you can actually zoom in on them. Each hexagon represents a city, and then these hexagons without borders, the blue ones, that's just water. Now, each city has a color, and that tells you which empire it belongs to. Cities of the same color, obviously, belong to the same empire, society, culture, whatever you want to call them. You'll see within each color set, there's one city with a black dot on it, like this. That's the capital. So every empire has its own capital. Empires can actually fight and take over another one's city to change its color. If they take over another empire's capital, like this empire looks like it's about to do to this guy, then everything that was under this capital's control also goes to the victor. So it looks like if this simulation had ran for another frame, that this guy would have taken over all of this land right here. Or maybe this guy would have taken over him. A lot of these capitals are in place in very strategic spots, and that's what causes a lot of the chaos that goes on in a lot of these simulations. Now, if you look down here at the histogram, you'll see a visual representation of everything that happened in the history of this simulation. So you start out with a few seed states, is what I like to call them. They have pretty low population, and you'll see that the population rises throughout the entire simulation until it hits basically maximum population inside the world. And all the different colors here correspond to the empires that have risen and fallen throughout history. So the wider on the vertical axis that a color is, that means the more cities they had on the landmass at that point in time. And the horizontal axis is at what point in the simulation did this event take place. So you can look at vertical slices of this histogram and figure out sort of what did the world look like at each point in time. And when an empire gives way to another one, like when this big green empire fell, it'll actually line up its successors with the position of this fallen empire. So you get to see that this big green guy gave way to all these different colored littler nations. The colors are randomly generated based on the point in time in the simulation that a new nation rises, and also its position on the world. So because I wrote this program in Python, it's actually really easy to start it up. You just type in python civsim2.py, because that's the name of the file, just hit enter, and I think it's tkinter is the Python module that I was using to create the UI. You'll see right off the bat, there's a randomly generated continent with blue water, green grass, and you have these different empires that rise up. Right now, we have kind of blue heterogeneity. Blue is the Roman Empire. You know, it's conquered the most of the world, but now some rebels just broke it up as soon as I said that. So now you have all these warring factions. It looks like, well, pink was doing good, but then it just broke up, as you can see right over here. See, whenever an empire breaks up, you see right in the histogram down here that which colors split off from it. And I want to do that so that it's easier to analyze which empires rise and fall and give birth to other empires. Now, it's kind of chaotic at this point with everything that's going on. This is sort of a hard to follow map. I didn't necessarily want to make it easy to follow because, you know, in real history you find all these different chaotic rules. And oh, here we go. We have like a Eastern Western Empire rivalry going on with like some shatters. I think they're called shatter belt states. I think that's what my AP Human Geo teacher called them. It's like the shatter belt, or all these different states in between two world powers, and they kind of get like the short end of the stick being lodged in between the two. So now you have this crazy, like psychedelic looking histogram almost of the entire history of this world that's run for about a minute, I think is what I programmed to run for. Okay, so here's the GitHub for my CivSim2 project. If you scroll down, you'll see I have a prototype written in Java. You don't really have to worry about that. There's a simple README, and you can skip straight to civsim2.py. And that's the Python file that contains the final project. So as you can see, I'm using the tkinter library for the GUI. I use just like standard libraries, math, thread, time, random. The way the kind of weird octopus brain-ish AI works is I like to call it a sensory network. So each city itself acts as a nerve, essentially. Each city can detect to see if it can expand to an adjacent land block. It can detect to see if there's a nearby enemy city next to it, and it can detect a number of other things. So each city, when it detects this, sends a message to the central brain, the emperor of its civilization. And the emperor has a series of weights that determine which priorities it has. So some emperors might want to expand to empty blocks as opposed to attacking, or others might want to do other type stuff. You know, it all depends on their priorities. And here we have a couple actions. So that's essentially how it works. Each city posts its senses to the emperor sorts everything, and it can take a number of actions each frame based on how many cities it has under its control. Yeah, this function right here looks at all the surroundings for each city and all that. This is the collapse of a city, get its surroundings of a city. Because it's Python and indentation actually matters, I have like some crazy far out there code. I just want to show you guys the code so that way if you want to download it So if you want to make it better, play around with it, run it yourself, you can just go here to the GitHub. You can find the GitHub repo here in this URL. I'll have a link in the description, or you can just go to my GitHub page, alugocp, and look for the CivSim2 project. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at alugocp or Instagram at alugocp1, and I'll also have those and other social medias down below. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, or click the little bell at the bottom to receive notifications whenever I post a new video. If you like the video, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next week.